The morning started like any other Tuesday in Seoul. President Dae-ho Kim was drinking his coffee and reading reports when the emergency alarm went off. The sound made his blood freeze. In 40 years of government service, he had never heard that alarm. "Sir, you need to come to the command center right away," his aide said, running into the office. The young man's face was white with fear. Dae-ho dropped his coffee cup and ran. The elevator seemed to take forever. When the doors opened, he saw chaos. Military officers were shouting at screens. Scientists were pointing at numbers he couldn't understand. Admiral Hyun Park stood in the center of it all, looking up at the main display. "What is happening?" Dae-ho asked. Hyun turned around. His old friend looked 10 years older than he had yesterday. "We have visitors," he said quietly. "Big ones." The main screen showed Earth from space, but something was wrong. A massive shadow covered half the planet. Dae-ho looked closer and realized it wasn't a shadow. It was a ship, the biggest ship he had ever seen. "How big is that thing?" he whispered. "Our computers say it's about the size of Australia," said Dr. So-min Lee, the head scientist. She was standing next to a pile of papers, her hands shaking. "It just appeared there 10 minutes ago. No warning, no sound. Just appeared." Colonel Woo Jin Choi stepped forward. He was the kind of man who never looked worried, but today his jaw was tight. "Sir, we've tried to contact them on every frequency we know. They're not answering our calls." Dae-ho stared at the screen. The ship didn't look like anything humans had ever built. It was dark and smooth, with strange curves that hurt his eyes to look at. Lights blinked along its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. "How many people do you think are on that ship?" he asked. "Could be millions," Hyun said. "Maybe more. We don't know anything about their technology or their intentions. But we're about to find out," So-min said, pointing at her instruments. "They're sending some kind of signal. It's trying to connect to our communication systems." The room went quiet. Everyone stared at the speakers on the wall. Static filled the air, then a voice spoke. It wasn't human. The words were clear, but the tone was wrong. Too cold, too perfect. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We require immediate communication with your governing authority." Dae-ho felt his heart pounding. This was it. First contact with aliens. He had dreamed about this moment since he was a boy, but he never imagined it would feel so terrifying. "This is President Dae-ho Kim of the Global Earth Federation," he said into the microphone. "We welcome your visit to our world." "Your welcome is not required," the voice replied. "Prepare to receive our delegation. We will transport down to your location in one of your time periods you call minutes." The signal cut off. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. "Transport down? How do they know where we are?" Woo Jin asked. "They must be scanning." "Our communications," So-min said. "They know our languages, our location, probably everything about us." "Sir, should we evacuate the building?" an aide asked. Dae-ho held up his hand. "No, if they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already. We stay here and meet them properly." 20 minutes later, a bright light filled the main conference room. When it faded, 3 figures stood where empty space had been before. They were tall, much taller than humans, with skin that looked like gray metal. Their eyes were large and black, and they wore clothing that seemed to be made of the same material as their ship. The one in the center stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Hegemony, speaking for the Galactic Council. You will listen to what I have to say." Dae-ho stood up from his chair. Even standing, the alien was a full head taller than him. "I'm listening." Veltar looked around the room with those black eyes. "Your species has achieved faster-than-light travel. You have established colonies on 3 worlds beyond this one. This expansion must stop immediately." "Why?" Dae-ho asked. Because the Galactic Council has determined that your species is dangerous. You are classified as a Class C aggressive species. History shows that such species must be contained before they become a threat to galactic peace. Hyon stepped forward. We haven't threatened anyone. We've never even met other intelligent life before today. Veltar's head turned toward him. Your lack of contact with other species is irrelevant. Your behavior patterns, your history, your biological markers all indicate high levels of aggression and unpredictability. The Council has studied 847 species over the past 10,000 years. The patterns are always the same. What exactly are you demanding? Deho asked. First, you will cease all expansion beyond your current 3 systems. Second, you will submit to Council oversight of your government and military. Third, you will provide tribute of 40% of your annual resource production. These terms are not negotiable. The room erupted in angry voices. Deho raised his hand for quiet, but his own voice was shaking with rage. And if we refuse? Veltar's expression didn't change. Then your species will be eliminated, completely. We have done this before when necessary. Your planets will be sterilized, your colonies destroyed, your people erased from existence. The galaxy will be safer without you. You're talking about genocide, So-Min said, her voice barely a whisper. We prefer the term galactic hygiene, Veltar replied. The Council maintains peace through strength. Aggressive species like yours either submit or are removed. There are no other options. Deho felt the weight of every human life on his shoulders. 8 billion people on Earth, another million in the colonies, all depending on what he said. Next, how long do we have to decide? He asked. 30 of your standard days. We will return for your answer. Choose wisely, President Kim. The Council has never been defied, and we do not intend to start with your species. The 3 aliens began to glow with the same bright light. Do not attempt to leave your current systems during this time. Our ships are watching. Any attempt to expand or flee will be considered an act of aggression. The light flashed, and they were gone. The room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, Wu Jin spoke up. Sir, what are your orders? Deho looked around at the faces of his advisors. They were scared, angry, confused, just like him. But he knew one thing for certain. Get me the leaders of every nation, every colony, every military unit we have, he said. We have 30 days to decide the future of humanity, and I already know what my answer is going to be. The next 29 days were the busiest in human history. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists from every nation on Earth gathered in emergency sessions. The colonies sent their leaders back to Earth on the fastest ships available. Everyone wanted to be part of the decision that would shape humanity's future. Deho Kim barely slept during those weeks. The weight of the choice was crushing. But he wasn't alone. Prime Minister Ji Hae-yoon from the European Union worked beside him day and night. General Tae-Young-nam coordinated with military leaders around the world. Every conversation ended the same way. No one wanted to bow down to the aliens. The math is simple, Dr. Insu Kang said during one late-night meeting. He was the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, a job that used to seem less important. They have technology we can't match. Their ship alone could probably destroy our entire planet. But, Deho asked, knowing there was more. But they made a mistake, Insu continued. He pulled up holographic displays showing ship designs. When they transported down to meet us, our sensors recorded everything. We've been studying their technology for weeks now. Admiral Hyan Park leaned forward in his chair. What did you find? Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly old. Everything we detected suggests they've been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. They're powerful, but they're not innovative. Captain Yun Jung. Oh, the youngest ship captain in the Earth Defense Fleet, looked up from her data pad. What does that mean for us? It means they think in predictable ways, said Chief Engineer Minho Bak. While they were giving us ultimatums, we were learning how they work, and we've been busy. The room fell silent as Minho activated another holographic display. This one showed Earth's moon, but it looked different. Massive construction projects covered its surface, and ships moved between orbital platforms like busy insects. We've been preparing for this possibility since we achieved faster-than-light travel, General Nam explained. Not specifically for the Galactic Council, but for the chance that we might meet hostile aliens. Every mining operation, every industrial platform, every seemingly peaceful project has been designed with dual purposes. Daeho stared at the display. You turned our entire space infrastructure into weapons? Not weapons exactly, Minho said. But everything we built can be converted. Quickly. Those mining platforms? They can launch asteroids at incredible speeds. Those cargo ships? They can carry a lot more than cargo. Those communication satellites? They can jam enemy signals and coordinate our forces. Dr. So-Min Lee had been quiet during most of these meetings, but now she spoke up. There's something else we learned from studying their visit. The Galactic Council isn't just technologically stagnant. They're psychologically predictable, too. Explain, Jihai said. They've been in power for 10,000 years. They've conquered 847 species, and apparently every single one submitted when threatened. They literally cannot imagine a species that would choose to fight instead of surrender. It's outside their experience. Captain O smiled for the first time in weeks. So they won't be ready for us to say no. More than that, So-Min continued. They won't be ready for how we'll say no. Every species they've encountered thinks like them, hierarchical, predictable, logical. Humans don't think that way, Colonel. Wu Jin Choi, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. Are we really going to do this? Declare war on an enemy that could destroy us all? The room went silent. This was the question everyone had been avoiding. Daeho looked around at the faces of Earth's leaders. These were good people, smart people, people who had spent their lives trying to make the world better. Now they had to decide whether to risk everything humanity had ever built. Let me ask you all something, Daeho said quietly. If we submit to their demands, what happens to us? What happens to our children? We become slaves, General Nam said bluntly. Maybe comfortable slaves, but slaves nonetheless. And if other species see that humans can be forced to submit, what message does that send? Jihai added. It tells them that resistance is impossible, Captain O said. That the Council's power can never be challenged. Daeho nodded. Then, we all agree, the risk of fighting is terrible, but the cost of surrender is worse. The final vote was unanimous. On the 30th day, the Galactic Council's ship returned. The same bright light filled the conference room, and Ambassador Veltar appeared with his two companions. President Kim, the alien said, the Council requires your decision. Daeho stood up, wearing the formal uniform of the Earth Defense Forces. Behind him stood representatives from every nation on Earth and every human colony. The room was packed with humanity's leaders, all wearing military dress, uniforms. Ambassador Veltar, Daeho said in a clear, strong voice, I have Earth's answer to the Galactic Council's demands. State your compliance terms, Veltar replied. Daeho pulled out a formal document and began to read. By unanimous vote of the Global Earth Federation, the Colonial Assembly, and the United Military Command, humanity rejects all demands made by the Galactic Council. Veltar's black eyes seemed to grow larger. You are refusing to comply? More. Than that, Daeho continued reading. We formally declare the Galactic Council to be an illegal tyranny that has oppressed free species for far too long. We declare our intention to resist Council authority by any means necessary, and we declare our support for any species that chooses to fight for their freedom from Council oppression. The alien ambassador stood perfectly still for several seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a tone of complete disbelief. "You are declaring war on the Galactic Council?" "We are declaring war on tyranny," General Nam said, stepping forward. "If the Council represents tyranny, then yes, we are declaring war on the Council." "This is impossible," Veltar said. "No species has ever chosen resistance over survival. You cannot win this conflict. Our fleets number in the millions. Our technology spans millennia. You have a few hundred ships and barely 50 years of space travel experience." Captain O moved to stand next to her general. "Then this should be a very short war." "You do not understand," Veltar said, his voice rising. "We will destroy every human world. We will hunt down every human ship. We will eliminate your species completely." "You're welcome to try," Admiral Park said calmly. Veltar looked around the room at the dozens of human faces staring back at him. None of them looked afraid. Some looked angry, some looked determined, but none looked ready to change their minds. "You are insane," he finally said. "Maybe," Deho replied. "But we'd rather be insane and free than sane and enslaved." The alien began to glow with transport light. "The Council fleets are already moving toward your systems. Your colonies will be the first to die, followed by this world. You have doomed your entire species for the sake of pride." "No," said Dr. Lee, speaking for the first time. "We've chosen our destiny for the sake of freedom." "There's a difference." The light flashed, and the aliens were gone. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then Captain O walked over to the communication console and activated the fleet-wide channel. "All Earth Defense Force units. This is Captain O. Operation Freedom has commenced. All ships are to proceed to their assigned positions. Earth Command sends this message to every human in space. We go to war not because we want to fight, but because some things are worth fighting for." She closed the channel and turned back to the room. "The Galactic Council is about to learn something new about humans. We don't just fight to win. We fight to prove that freedom is worth any price." Outside the windows, the lights of Earth's cities glittered in the darkness. Soon those lights might be gone forever. But for the first time in 30 days, Daeho Kim felt at peace with his decision. Humanity would face the future as free beings, whatever that future might bring. The attack came 3 weeks after Earth's declaration of war. Fleet Commander Zed Thera of the Galactic Council chose humanity's newest colony as his target. The Kepler 442 system was small, with only 500,000 human settlers and a weak defense force. It would be an easy victory that would show other species what happened to those who defied the Council. Commander Yejin Ryu stood on the bridge of the ESS Defender, watching the enemy fleet approach on her screens. 200 Council warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Against them, she had 12 ships, 3 military vessels, and 9 converted cargo haulers that barely qualified as warships. "Commander, incoming transmission from the lead Council ship," said Lieutenant Boram Seo, her communications officer. "Put it through," Yejin replied. The face that appeared on screen was similar to Ambassador Veltar, but this alien wore military markings and looked far more aggressive. "Human Commander, I am Fleet Commander Zed Thara. You will surrender immediately and prepare for planetary occupation." "I'm Commander Yejin Ryu of the Earth Defense Forces," she replied calmly. "And my answer is no." Zed Thara's black eyes narrowed. "Your ships are outnumbered 20 to 1. Your weapons are primitive compared to ours. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Yejin looked around her bridge at her crew. They were young, most of them barely out of the academy. They were scared, she could see it in their faces, but they were also determined. These people had volunteered to defend the colony knowing they would probably die. "Fleet Commander," she said, "you're about to learn something about humans. We don't surrender, and we don't die easily. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships, this is Commander Ryu. Remember your training. We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to make them pay for every meter of space they take. Activate Plan Chaos. What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare before. Instead of forming battle lines and engaging in formal combat, the human ships scattered in every direction. The Council fleet, expecting a traditional space battle, found themselves chasing targets that refused to fight properly. Lieutenant Asio led 3 converted mining ships in an attack run that used industrial equipment as weapons. The ships launched mining charges, explosives designed to break apart asteroids, directly into the engine ports of Council vessels. The aliens' shields, designed to stop energy weapons, couldn't deflect physical objects moving at high speed. Meanwhile, the cargo hauler ESS Merchant ran directly at a Council dreadnought, seemingly on a suicide mission. At the last second, it released its entire cargo hold, 1,000 tons of metal debris that had been accelerated to incredible speeds. The dreadnought's shield stopped most of it, but enough got through to damage critical systems. What are they doing? Zedthara demanded from his flagship. This isn't how space combat works. His tactical officer, a tall alien with blue skin, looked confused. Sir, they're not following any recognized battle doctrine. They're using mining equipment, cargo containers, even their own ships as weapons. Then destroy them systematically, Zedthara ordered. They cannot escape our superior firepower. But the humans weren't trying to escape. They were using the asteroid field around Kepler 442's outer planet as cover, darting between rocks and using the natural obstacles to break up the Council's formation. Every time a Council ship tried to pursue a human vessel, it found itself separated from the main fleet and under attack from multiple directions. Commander Ryu's ship, the Defender, led a group of 3 vessels in coordinated strikes against the Council's largest ships. But instead of trying to destroy them, the humans targeted specific systems, communication arrays, sensor clusters, weapon control centers. They weren't trying to kill the ships, they were trying to blind and cripple them. Dr. Haiwan Ko, the colony's chief scientist, was broadcasting everything from the planet's surface. Her transmission reached Earth and every human colony, showing the galaxy that humans would fight even when facing impossible odds. The Council ships are massive and powerful, she reported, but they're designed for fighting other Council ships. They expect their enemies to behave in predictable ways. Our people are making up new tactics as they fight. Colonel Su Bin-Jang commanded the ground defenses on the colony world. As Council troops began landing, they found that the humans had turned the entire settlement into a fortress. Every building had been reinforced. Every street had become a potential trap. The colonists, including civilians, fought with weapons that ranged from military rifles to farming equipment. They're everywhere, a Council ground commander reported to Zedthara. The humans don't have uniforms or ranks like proper soldiers. We can't tell who is military and who is civilian. They all fight like warriors. The space battle raged for 18 hours. One by one, the human ships were destroyed, but each one took multiple Council vessels with it. The converted cargo ships rammed enemy vessels after launching all their makeshift weapons. The mining ships used their industrial lasers to cut through armor that energy weapons couldn't penetrate. Lieutenant Sio's ship was the last of the mining vessels. She flew directly into the middle of the Council formation, her ship badly damaged and losing air. This is Lieutenant Boram Sio to all human forces. It's been an honor serving with you. Her ship exploded in the center of 6 Council vessels, taking them all down in a chain reaction that lit up space like a small sun. Commander Ryu fought until the end. Her ship, the Defender, was surrounded by 20 Council vessels, all firing at once. Her shields were gone, her weapons were destroyed, and her hull was breaking apart. Commander, we should surrender, her tactical officer said. Maybe they'll spare the crew. No, Yejin said firmly. We knew this was a one-way mission when we accepted it. Our job isn't to survive, it's to make them remember us. She set her ship on a collision course with Zed Thara's flagship. The Council commander watched in disbelief as the burning human vessel accelerated toward him. "They're insane," he shouted. "All ships, destroy that vessel." The defender died under the combined fire of the entire Council fleet, but not before ramming the flagship and causing massive damage to its command section. On the planet's surface, Colonel Jang and her defenders held out for 6 more hours. When the Council troops finally overran their positions, they had paid a terrible price. What should have been a quick occupation had become a bloody struggle that cost the Council thousands of soldiers. Dr. Ko's final transmission reached Earth just as the Council troops broke into her laboratory. "This is Dr. Hye-Won Ko with my final report. The colony is lost, but we have learned something important about our enemies. They are powerful, but they are not invincible. They expect their enemies to fight like civilized beings. They are not prepared for humans who fight like—" The transmission cut off. Fleet Commander Zed Thara stood in the ruins of the human colony looking at the casualty reports. His fleet had won the battle, but the cost had been enormous. He had started with 200 ships and could only count 120 that were still capable of fighting. Many others were heavily damaged and would need months of repairs. Worse, the humans had recorded everything. Their sensors had mapped his ships, analyzed his weapons, and transmitted all that data back to Earth before they died. The next battle would be even harder. His communication officer approached nervously. "Sir, we're receiving messages from 12 other species within the Council. They're asking about the battle reports they intercepted." "What about them, sir?" "They want to know if it's true that a species with primitive technology destroyed 40% of a Council fleet. Some of them are asking questions about Council military doctrine." Zed Thara felt a cold fear in his stomach. The humans had done more than resist. They had shown other species that the Council could be hurt. That was the most dangerous thing of all. "Send a message to the Council headquarters," he ordered. "Tell them that the human problem is more serious than we thought. This won't be a simple extermination. This is going to be a real war." As his damaged fleet limped away from the Kepler 442 system, Zed Thara couldn't stop thinking about the human commander who had rammed his ship. She could have surrendered. She could have saved her crew. Instead, she had chosen to die fighting. For the first time in his long military career, Zed Thara wondered if the Council truly understood what they were facing. The news of the Kepler 442 battle spread across the galaxy faster than the Council could control it. Dr. Hye-Won Ko's broadcasts had been picked up by communications networks on dozens of worlds. For the first time in 10,000 years, subjugated. Species saw footage of Council ships being destroyed by a supposedly primitive enemy. On Earth, Supreme Commander Dong-Hyun Lim studied the battle reports in his underground command center. The loss of the colony and its brave defenders hurt, but their sacrifice had given humanity something precious: detailed intelligence about Council military capabilities and tactics. "Their biggest weakness is predictability," he said to his staff officers. "They've been fighting the same way for millennia because it always worked before. They expect their enemies to line up and fight fair battles." Captain Jae-Won Park, commander of the stealth ship Silent Running, looked up from his tactical display. "What are our orders, sir?" "We're going to do something the Council has never experienced," Dong-Hyun replied. "We're going to take this war to them. Not their military fleets, their infrastructure, their supply lines, their confidence." Major Ha-Yun Song, leader of Earth's Special Operations Forces, smiled grimly. "You want us to fight dirty." "I want us to fight to win," the Supreme Commander corrected. "The Council thinks this is a police action. They send a fleet, destroy some human ships, and we surrender. They don't understand that we're fighting for our survival." Dr. Yeon-Ho Ju, head of the new Alien Warfare Division, activated a holographic display showing the local galactic region. "We've identified 17 Council supply depots, communication hubs, and administrative centers within 50 light-years of Earth. They're all lightly defended because the Council has never had to worry about attacks on their rear areas. Until now, Captain Park said. The human counterattack began 3 days later with coordinated strikes across a dozen star systems. But these weren't the massive fleet battles the Council expected. Instead, small groups of human ships appeared without warning, struck critical targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Park's silent running materialized near a Council communication relay station in the Vega system. The station was enormous, processing messages for hundreds of worlds, but it was defended by only 6 patrol ships. "This is Captain Park to all units," he broadcast on a secure channel. "Remember, we're not here to hold territory. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we disappear. Target the communication arrays first. The human attack ships, converted civilian, vessels with military weapons bolted on, swarmed the station from 6 directions. Instead of trying to destroy it completely, they targeted specific systems with surgical precision. The main communication array, the power generators, the life support systems, all destroyed within minutes. The station's defense coordinator, an alien named Kethvar, sent desperate distress calls as his facility died around him. "This is Relay. Station 7, we are under attack by unknown vessels. They're using unconventional tactics and weapons." By the time Council reinforcements arrived 2 hours later, the humans were gone. The station was intact, but completely useless, drifting in space like a dead whale. It would take months to repair. Meanwhile, Major Song was leading ground operations on 3 different worlds. Her teams didn't try to conquer territory or defeat armies. Instead, they sabotaged supply convoys, destroyed fuel depots, and spread propaganda to the local populations. On the world of Nexus 7, a Council agricultural center, Song's team appeared in the middle of the night near a massive food processing facility. But instead of destroying it, they did something unexpected. "Set up the broadcast equipment," Song ordered her communications specialist. "I want every person on this planet to hear this message." What followed was something the galaxy had never experienced: psychological warfare. Song's broadcast, transmitted in the local language, wasn't about human superiority or military might. It was about freedom. "People of Nexus 7, her voice echoed across the planet. "We are not here to conquer you. We are here to show you that the Council can be resisted. For 10,000 years, you have been told that resistance is impossible. Today, you see Council facilities burning. You see their security forces running in confusion. You see that they are not gods. They are just bullies with big ships." The broadcast continued for 20 minutes before Council jamming finally cut it off. But the damage was done. Across Nexus 7, people looked up at the burning supply depot and realized that the humans were right. The Council could be hurt. Similar operations took place on dozens of worlds. Admiral Seon Mi-han discovered that the Council's greatest tactical weakness was their inability to adapt quickly. Their military doctrine was thousands of years old, refined through countless victories against enemies who fought conventionally. "They keep trying to force us into large fleet battles," she reported to Earth Command. "When we refuse to cooperate, they don't know what to do. Their commanders are trained for set-piece engagements, not this kind of distributed warfare." But the most shocking development came when diplomat Kyung-hee An made contact with representatives from 3 species that had been conquered by the Council centuries ago. The meeting took place on a neutral space station in an uncharted system, far from Council surveillance. "We received your broadcasts," said Ambassador Thren of the Corial people. His species looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and large eyes. "Is it true that your ships destroyed 40% of a Council battle fleet?" "It's true," Kyung-hee replied, "and we're just getting started." The 3 alien diplomats looked at each other nervously. Ambassador Velthani of the Zephyrians, a species that resembled large insects, spoke next. "For 800 years, my people have served the Council. We have never forgotten our freedom, but we believed resistance was impossible. Nothing is impossible, Kyung-hee said. But freedom isn't free. Are your people willing to fight for it? The negotiations took days. The three species had been enslaved for so long that they had almost forgotten how to think independently. But gradually, the old dreams of freedom began to resurface. Ambassador Korath of the Titanium folk, massive beings who looked like living metal sculptures, finally spoke the words that would change galactic history. The Titanium folk will stand. With humanity against the Council, we remember what it was like to be free, and we are willing to die to be free again. Within weeks, the rebellion spread to 12 systems. Council forces found themselves fighting not just human raiders, but coordinated uprisings by species they had controlled for centuries. The Corial used their advanced sensor technology to help human ships avoid Council patrols. The Zephyrians, who had been forced to maintain Council communication networks, began sabotaging them from within. The Titanium folk, with their incredible strength and durability, proved to be natural shock troops for ground operations. Dr. Ju's psychological warfare programs proved devastatingly effective. Instead of trying to convince aliens that humans were superior, the broadcasts focused on a simple message. The Council wants you to believe that resistance is hopeless. If that were true, why are they so afraid of one small species from a backwater planet? Council Fleet Admiral Horth Zek, Zed Thara's superior, found himself facing a crisis that no Council leader had ever experienced. His daily reports to the Council leadership grew more desperate with each passing week. "The human cancer is spreading," he reported during one emergency session. 12 species are now in open rebellion. Supply lines throughout the outer sectors have been disrupted. Morale among our forces is declining as they face enemies who refuse to fight according to established protocols. Supreme Council leader Zerion, an ancient being who had ruled for 3,000 years, listened to the reports with growing alarm. "How is this possible? They are one primitive species with a handful of ships." "That's exactly the problem, Admiral," Horthzek replied. "We prepared to fight one species. Instead, we're fighting an idea. The idea that the Council can be defeated. Every ship we lose, every facility they destroy, every world that joins their rebellion proves that idea correct. Then we must demonstrate our power," Zarian declared. "Prepare the Grand Fleet. We will strike at Earth itself and end this rebellion before it spreads further." "Sir," the Admiral said carefully, "the Grand Fleet hasn't been deployed in over 2,000 years. Using it against one world might be seen as necessary," Zerion cut him off. "The humans want to see our full power? Very well. Let them witness the might that has kept the galaxy in order for 10 millennia. But as the Council prepared their ultimate weapon, humanity was preparing too. The counterattack had bought them time and allies. More importantly, it had shown the galaxy that the Council was not invincible. In his command center on Earth, Supreme Commander Lim received reports from across human space. The rebellion was growing faster than anyone had expected, but he knew the easy victories were over. The Council would respond with overwhelming force, and humanity would face its greatest test yet. "Sir," Captain Park reported from his latest raid, "Council forces are pulling back from frontier areas. Intelligence suggests they're massing for a major offensive." The Council's Grand Fleet was a sight that had terrified the galaxy for thousands of years. 5,000 warships, each one a mobile fortress capable of destroying entire worlds. Led by Supreme Council leader Zerion himself aboard the massive Dreadnought Eternal Order, it was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Fleet Admiral Jin Wu Che watched them approach on his command display from Earth's orbital defense platform. The human fleet that stood against them looked pathetic in comparison. 800 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels or hastily built fighters. But Jin Wu wasn't worried about the numbers anymore. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Council flagship," reported his communications officer. Put it through, Jinwoo replied. The face that appeared on screen was ancient and terrible. Zerion had ruled the galaxy since before humans discovered fire, and his presence radiated the absolute authority of 10,000 years of unchallenged power. I am Supreme Council Leader Zerion. I offer you one final chance to surrender and accept Council authority. Submit now, and your species will be permitted to exist as a client race. Refuse, and you will be completely exterminated. Jinwoo looked back at the alien ruler without flinching. I am Fleet Admiral Jinwoo Che of the Earth Defense Forces, and I have a counter-offer for you. Zerion's ancient eyes narrowed. You are in no position to make offers, human, aren't I? Jinwoo smiled. Take a look at your galaxy, Zerion. How many worlds are in rebellion against you now? 50? 100? How many of your ships are tied up fighting uprisings instead of being here with your grand fleet? Temporary disruptions that will be corrected once your species is eliminated, Zerion replied coldly. Maybe, Jinwoo said, but here's what I think will really happen. You'll destroy our fleet, you'll bombard Earth, and you might even kill every human in the galaxy. But you'll have proven something to every species watching this battle. And what is that? That the only way you can maintain control is through genocide. That the Council's peace is built on the threat of complete extermination. Is that really the legacy you want after 10,000 years of rule? For the first time in millennia, Zerion hesitated. Around him, his advisors shifted nervously. They had expected the humans to beg for mercy or make desperate threats. Instead, this human admiral was challenging the very foundation of Council authority. The Council maintains order, Zerion said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. The Council maintains fear, Jinwoo corrected, and fear only works until someone stops being afraid. We stopped being afraid, Zerion, and that's why your empire is crumbling. The transmission cut off, and Jinwoo turned to his staff. Around him, the combined forces of humanity and their alien allies prepared for the final battle. But this wouldn't be decided by weapons alone. President Dae-ho Kim was aboard a neutral diplomatic vessel anchored safely outside the battle zone. With him were representatives from 43 species that had joined the human rebellion. They weren't here to fight, they were here to witness. The battle is beginning, reported Admiral Park from his scout ship. On the main display, the two fleets began their approach, but something unexpected was happening. Sir, called Dr. So-Min Lee from her sensor station, I'm detecting massive communication traffic throughout the galaxy. It's not Council military channels, it's civilian frequencies. What kind of communications? Dae-ho asked. News broadcasts, personal messages, data transmissions? Sir, I think the entire galaxy is watching this battle. On the Council flagship, Eternal Order similar. Reports were reaching Zerion. His communications officer, a nervous alien named Vexathari, approached his command throne. Supreme Leader, we're detecting unauthorized transmissions on over 10,000 frequencies. The humans appear to be broadcasting this battle to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Block the transmissions, Zerion ordered. Sir, there are too many. They're using relay stations, captured Council equipment, even repurposed civilian satellites. The entire galaxy is watching. Zerion felt something he hadn't experienced in thousands of years. Uncertainty. The humans had turned this final battle into a galactic broadcast, a test of Council authority witnessed by every species in known space. The battle itself was unlike anything in military history. The Grand Fleet advanced in perfect formation, their massive ships bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Against them, the human-led alliance scattered like leaves in the wind, using every unconventional tactic they had learned. But the real battle wasn't happening in space. It was happening in the hearts and minds of billions of beings across the galaxy who were watching the broadcasts. People of the galaxy, came a transmission from the diplomatic vessel. This is President Dae-ho Kim of Earth, speaking on behalf of the Free Species Alliance. Today, You witness the choice that will define our future. Will we accept eternal slavery for the promise of safety, or will we choose the risks of freedom? On the world of Coriolis Prime, capital of the Corial species, millions of beings watched the human ships darting through the Council formation like angry insects. The Corial had been subjects of the Council for 8 centuries, but their ambassador, Thren, was out there fighting alongside the humans. "Look at them," whispered a young Corial to his friends. "They're so small compared to the Council ships, but they're not afraid." Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds. Species that had submitted to Council rule centuries ago were remembering what it felt like to dream of freedom. On the Council world of Nexus Central, the administrative heart of the galactic government, civil servants watched the battle with growing alarm. For the first time in their lives, they saw Council ships being destroyed by an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. "The Grand Fleet is losing ships," reported a junior administrator to his supervisor. "How is that possible?" "I don't know," the supervisor replied, his voice shaking. "This isn't supposed to happen." In space, Admiral Jin Woo coordinated the Alliance fleet with tactics that would have been impossible for a traditional military force. Ships from dozens of species, each with different capabilities and technologies, worked together in ways the Council had never imagined. The Zephyrians used their natural telepathy to coordinate attacks without radio communications. The Titanium folk had converted their cargo ships into massive battering rams that could punch through Council shields. The Corial provided sensor data that let human ships appear and disappear like ghosts. But the most devastating weapon wasn't military at all. It was hope. "Sir," reported the communications officer on Zarian's flagship, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Council worlds. They're asking to join the rebellion." "Impossible," Zarian snarled. "Those worlds have been loyal for millennia." "The governors are reporting massive civil unrest. The local populations are demanding to join the Free Species Alliance. Several worlds have declared independence and are asking for alliance protection." Zarian watched his perfect formation of ships being picked apart by enemies who fought like no civilized beings ever had. But worse, he could feel his empire dissolving as world after world chose freedom over security. The end came not with a massive explosion, but with a simple communication. Council Speaker Zenkalar, Zarian's oldest advisor, approached the command throne with a formal document. "Supreme Leader, I regret to inform you that the Council Assembly has voted. By a margin of 412 to 37, they have authorized me to negotiate a ceasefire with the Human Alliance." Zarian stared at the document in disbelief. "The Council is surrendering?" "The Council is choosing survival," Zenkalar replied gently. 200 worlds have already declared independence. Our fleet is outnumbered 3 to 1 as former subjects join the Alliance. If we continue this battle, we will lose everything. The formal ceasefire was signed aboard President Kim's diplomatic vessel. Zarian, looking ancient and defeated, sat across from representatives of dozens of species who had once been his subjects. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council as a governing body," said diplomat Kyung-hee An, reading from the Alliance demands. "Independence for all member species, establishment of a new galactic federation based on voluntary cooperation between equal partners." "And if we refuse?" President Kim leaned forward. "Then you'll face not just humanity, but 400 species that have chosen freedom over fear. The choice is yours, Zarian. You can be remembered as the tyrant who destroyed the galaxy fighting, to preserve his power, or as the leader who chose peace when war would have meant the end of everything." The negotiation took 3 days. In the end, the Council agreed to every Alliance demand. The Galactic Federation was established with Earth as its temporary capital, not because humans had conquered the galaxy, but because they had inspired it to free itself. 6 months later, Ambassador Ji Young No stood before the First General, Assembly of the Galactic Federation. Representatives from over 600 species filled the vast hall, each one there voluntarily. "Fellow beings," she began, "6 months ago, the Galactic Council sent Earth a warning.